Well, I believe that it broadened my view of racism and prejudice because, I mean, we read it in school, like we read about Dr. Martin Luther King and we watch videos on it, but that was like 50 years ago. And it really didn't, I mean, to me, I didn't think it really happened anymore, but like having those stories told to me and having them actually there, like real people, not in videos, showed me that it was real and that it still does happen today.
I would say my definition of prejudice is being mean to someone or not talking to someone because of what someone else told you, like a stereotype, or listening to what someone else doesn't like about them, so you're automatically not going to talk to them because you think they're a certain way when they're really not.
Prejudice is kind of the same, except I think of it more as cliques of people, like different types of people, like there's the jocks and the emos and cheerleaders, or all sorts of stuff. And they all kind of stick to each other and stay away from the other groups, and it seems like they don't like them as much.
I always try to think about how I would react if I found myself in that position. You know, as I said before, I feel I've been very fortunate in my life. I've always been, for the most part, able to take care of myself, to look after myself. I feel badly for a lot of people in our society who are not able to do that, who are not able to afford basic health care, for example, who can't even maybe afford to feed their family. And that's why I feel that we as a society need to look after those who are less fortunate. And I just feel that more people should give that some thought. You know, how would I really feel if I found myself in that situation? As opposed to this, you know, oh, go get a job. Well, yeah, that is so easy to say, especially if you already have one. But, you know, it's not such an easy thing to do. And again, that goes back to the education factor then too. You know, some of our kids really handicap themselves when they don't take their education seriously, and they don't realize what they're getting themselves into.
But I can think of ways where maybe privilege, I do believe privilege exists, and white privilege, you know, and where people may earn things based on, you know, who you know or whatever that association may be. I have experienced and seen that when I deal with young people, you know, just one simple tool, you know, on I think it's ABC. John Quilionis does the What Would You Do specials all the time. And it's amazing, you know, I use that YouTube channel for those documentaries. And when I show young people different scenarios that are based on either some type of racism or prejudices or treatment of others, you know, nowadays it's amazing how unexposed they are. I mean, and that's a great thing. I'm not going to complain. And I guess, I don't know if I would call it, I would say unexposed they are to those types of treatments, but also I think too there's a lack of knowledge of how to be conscious of how someone treats you or how you're treating yourself, you know. And what I mean by that is when I was raised, there were certain ways you didn't carry yourself, you know. There were certain things you didn't say, you know, especially to someone who you love and respect, or is in your likeness. Meaning, as an African American man or a black man, you don't say certain things to other black men, or you don't use certain terminology or towards other, you know, black men or white men or people, just period.
I kind of talk to them about how quickly they have to get their message across. Yeah. That people can't sit there and wonder what it is. In an art gallery session, or in a billboard session when you're driving down the street, I think I made the point in the class that you have to sell this point at 55 miles an hour. So we got them to concentrate on a very clean and concise visual image, and very low. I don't think there were more than 5 words on any of the actual pieces. And so they had to very quickly get their idea they wanted.
But we get tied up into that groove again to where we fall back to maybe an old construct. This is the information you have to know. We hope that you apply it to where you need it to, but the way we deliver education now, I don't think that that happens. What we need to do is show them ways to apply it by pulling things that are outside the classroom inside so they understand that process. Once that process works, then they can use the process to apply to other problems. But we don't. We tend to think in small boxes. This is the information you have to know at this time, and this is the way you should take it, and this is the way you deliver it, and then you move on to the next thing. So what we're doing, I think, in education is keeping information in tight little boxes when we say we want people to think and apply, but we aren't teaching them the tools and how that process works.
Also, yeah, making that available, you can't make somebody do something when they're not interested. It's like an addict. You're not going to make that person stop using that drug or drinking alcohol until they come to a mindset where they say, I need help. Just like, to me, you need to have your community or somebody say, I want to know more.
That's perfect.
How can you make that person come and see the art exhibit or come and see the dance or come and see those things if they're not interested? And I'm not sure, I think, how do you get somebody to come to those things until they come to the realization that I am interested?
The reason why I see that is because with the kids that I'm dealing with today, or last year as a probation officer, I'm dealing with kids who have parents that are only 10, 12, 15 years older than they are. Kids having kids. Kids who have not been taught the history of the struggle that their predecessors went through. Tossing around the N-word. And I've tried to educate as many kids as I can. I hear that word every day. And it's because they have parents who haven't educated them on the history of what minorities went through with regard to that word. And it's very unfortunate, very unfortunate.
The Arts Council had worked in the early 60s and gone into the schools and become a partner with the schools in the arts department to bring visiting artists into classrooms and all that kind of thing, because we felt that people like that who have new ideas and great ways of expressing their ideas was very important for people who were really kind of in a rural area here. And so I think that we started that way with building the arts education programs, and the Arts Council did, and to become real solid partners with the Board of Educations around the area. But you see, that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to do that. It seemed as though we had to have a stronger, straighter arrow to try to find the way that people could find voices of their own and develop them. Mm. And certainly because of the way that Sojourn Theater functioned. I mean, they interviewed people and got ideas about racism and all kinds of different inequities within our community. And then they put that on the stage and people came to see it. And we felt that that was really a good thing that happened, because we know that people sitting in a darkened theater were more apt to really absorb what other people's experiences are without having to confront them face to face. And I just thought that there was a lot of knowledge that was exchanged because of that. And that was why we continue to do the dialogue sessions for people in different areas of the community who had requested getting these small dialogues together for people who've didn't agree on issues, and so that was a service that Common Threads continued.
They get taught that way. They get told and treated that way, and it just happens to because their circumstances, because the way they're raised, what they grow up as, and what they grow up around, it just becomes them.
My definition of racism is when a certain race of people thinks they're better than everyone else, so they discriminate against them and try and put them down.
It has to be taught in some way, in some type of unhealthy way, or some type of unhealthy action. I mean, if a young child possibly sees their parents or sees friends or whatever talk to or treat or talk to someone to a certain level, and then maybe however that parent or however that adult processes it with that young person, then I don't know. I can't think of any other way right now that could be just gang through life, just walk through life, and then this. I mean, like I said, it has to be developed through teaching.
I think listening did help, just because you got to listen and hear all of their feelings and thoughts and what they went through.
Yes, I do. I think, like people say, music and such like that, they move people. They give you a mood. It just tells people can do the same thing no matter who they are, what they, stuff like that. I think it just kind of deepens the art value itself to kind of teach that, yes, I can. Yes, we can. We can work together.
Prejudice is kind of like discriminating against anyone just because they're anything about them that's not the same as you. You don't like them just because they're not like you or like your ideal or something like that.
My definition of prejudice is like a stereotype. You don't know anyone and you're going to judge them.
You want to get these kids to go to school and then hopefully come back to our general area to be professionals. And, I've had, even my own kids will drive by, the Ford engine plant. If you drive by it on the one side, you don't know what it is. You don't know what's in those buildings. So when these kids get a chance to actually go to these workplaces, and obviously if you're teaching them a process, they're learning about the businesses that are in the community, in addition to learning about racism or learning about the Holocaust or other things. It gets them to tie in the classroom with real world applications. So again, so many people may not have any idea, I could be a graphic artist in Lime, Ohio. I don't have to go out of the area. Or I can be a fabricator. I can work with digital prototyping right here. And so it just lets these kids become and own their community a little better, to know what it is. So it's not just the big brown building they're driving by.
See it as a part of a child's life, that it's not something separated from a child. It is actually a process that they're used to doing in their own head, because they see something, they take care of it. Okay, they're in a formalized setting, an educational setting, so it should be the same. You see this problem, how do we solve it? How do we look for information? We should be then backing up that process, and then they demonstrate what they know through that process.
I honestly don't think I would ever say that there is a barrier. I think, if anything, for me, it's a lack of interest. A lack of even wanting to know more in general, just to have a greater knowledge. So I think if you had to, quote unquote, blame somebody for having a bias or a prejudice or being racism, it's yourself. And of course, again, that goes back to your first question, where does it all start from? As a child, the accountability and the responsibility goes back to the parents and the caregivers of that person or of that child. So I think it's really, to me, it's a lack of interest, and because the information is there with the technological advances that we have in our society at this point, with internet, television, on-the-go technology, with the laptops, iPad. I mean, you can't say that you don't know.
What we've tried with Common Threads is to try and get people to understand issues that are very important to them. And even though there are lots of different opinions around a dialogue circle, you finally learn a lot more about each other. And it's easier to collaborate with them, with others, because you know where those people are coming from. And you know the cultural environment they're in, and all of the kinds of things that have happened to them in their lives, in the same way that others have experienced life in different ways. And so that is really a community arts happening when people come together who are not alike, that are not good friends all the time and living in their own neighborhoods that might be locked on to the outside world. But that's not what it's about. Community arts is about everybody getting involved and getting to know each other as human beings. And that's what we've done. That's what we've been trying to do for years here. You know, we've had so many racial incidents. And we know what the history is here, you know, and the fact that a whole group of African American families came up so hopeful to be to have a good life. And then after the Second World War, so many jobs were gone from people who had African American people who had been doing jobs for those who were away teaching or fighting in the war. And you know, that is a history that we all need to know, and a lot of people in our city and in our county don't know that history. And that's why it's you know, we started American House, because that was really a history model for different ethnicities within the communities and all that kind of thing, in order for people to understand the culture, you know, the cuisine, all of that from all the different people who came to this area to work and to raise their families.
I mean, you could grow up, maybe be raised a certain way, and possibly, you know, take a liking to a lot of our unhealthy leaders that's been, you know, in this world, and then, you know, you inherit maybe their teachings and their beliefs, and then, you know, it may shape, but at the core, I think it's just what you were given, maybe from parents and from your neighborhood, and so can that person be changed? Possibly, but I think that's probably a different dynamic, and I don't know what that could be.